Boys and girls of every age, wouldn't you like to see something strange? Come and gaze your eyes upon this month's artist adaptation. Artist adaptation, twisting the drawings that you know. Artist adaptation, without further ado, on with the show. It was the week before Halloween. In the base of the Imagination team, N.E.R.D was leading his younger brother, Universal Man, through his daily combat training. Though Universal Man was one of the most powerful people in the universe, and potentially the multiverse, he had difficulty harnessing his cosmic abilities. Though they didn't know why this was, N.E.R.D had a theory that he had been developing. One day, during their combat training, N.E.R.D pulled out an old invention of his. "Dalton, what on earth is that thing?" Universal Man asked. "This is a robotic training dummy for you to fight against. However, it comes with a twist. Using holographic projections, I can make it look like whatever I want." N.E.R.D pressed a few buttons and transformed the robot into a small and adorable puppy. "Now fight!" Universal Man looked down at the small dog, which was now flopped over and presenting its stomach. "Dalton, I'm not fighting a puppy. Come on, just punt the puppy." I'm not going to punt a puppy. What is wrong with you?" "So many things. Now fight the puppy." As N.E.R.D kept insisting, Universal Man became angrier and angrier, until finally a small black hole opened up in the middle of the battlefield and began to suck up everything around it, including the robotic puppy. Quickly, Universal Man closed the portal and was about to apologize when Dalton stood up and clapped. "There we go. That's what I'm talking about." "What was that for?" Universal Man asked angrily. "I've been running a few tests on that universal piece in your forehead, and I've figured out that its power is tied to your emotions." "So what?" "Well, unfortunately, due to an event that I'm not allowed to discuss for spoiler reasons, you have bottled up your emotions over the years, meaning your control over the powers of the universal piece will be hindered until we fix this underlying issue. Which means, if you say I need to go to therapy, I will shoot you in the face." I was going to say forced story arc, but suddenly, Yoshi, N.E.R.D's robotic lizard assistant, crawled into the room.
"Good news, we officially rented our vacation home for the team retreat this weekend."
"That's great, Yoshi. Are there any plot-relevant details about the place?"
"Yes, it's a large log cabin in the forest, bordering a lake. Because of the Midwest's inconsistent temperature, it may even be swimmable."
Universal Man nodded. "Well, that sounds nice. Dalton, why are you slamming your head against a wall?" N.E.R.D looked up at Universal Man. "Because, Sean, we are headed to an isolated cabin in the woods on Halloween, and N.E.R.D happens to be a horror movie buff. Essentially, we are walking straight into a horror film." Universal Man sighed and shook his head. "Don't be ridiculous. We are not walking into a horror movie. It's just a relaxing vacation." N.E.R.D laughed. "Yes, because the Imagination team versus the relaxing vacation where everything went according to plan is such an intriguing title for a YouTube video," I say sarcastically. As usual, Universal Man simply gave him a strained look and flew off elsewhere. The next day, N.E.R.D, Universal Man, Super X, Terror Tiger, Blue Wing, Red Wing, and Yoshi all left for the cabin in the woods. They soon arrived and quickly unpacked their belongings. N.E.R.D also insisted on having Yoshi set up a transportable security system around the cabin, just in case things went horribly wrong. After unpacking in their separate rooms, the team decided to have some fun, swimming in the lake, hiking in the forest, and playing cornhole outside. Eventually, it became dark. Super X had the idea to make s'mores, and the rest of the team agreed. After Terror Tiger lit a fire, the group began telling ghost stories around the fire. However, right as N.E.R.D was finishing his story about a group of murderous animals, a loud crash, like the sound of shattering glass, was heard. "What was that?" Red Wing asked, concerned. "It came from inside the house," N.E.R.D replied. Terror Tiger stood up. "You all stay here. I'll be right back," he said, and N.E.R.D immediately groaned. "No, he said the thing." "Said what thing?" Super X asked. Down Dude then explained, "If you're in a horror movie, never say 'I'll be right back,' because you won't." "But we're not in a horror movie," Universal Man insisted. However, he was quickly cut off by more sounds coming from inside the cabin. Immediately, Universal Man teleported the team inside the cabin so that they could help Terror Tiger, but they were far too late. When they arrived, all they found was Terror Tiger, lying still on the cabin floor. At least most of him was lying still. His head, meanwhile, rolled across the ground before stopping at Universal Man's feet. The group grasped in terror, seeing something had just decapitated one of the team's powerhouses. Suddenly, as if by itself, a floorboard popped open. Super X inspected it, and saw that it led to a basement below the cabin. "I think we should investigate down there," Super X said, trying to sound as confident as he could. The rest of the team followed, albeit reluctantly. Once downstairs, the team found the basement was nearly empty, all except for the strange book in the middle of the room, wrapped in leather with a title written in what appeared to be Latin. Universal Man walked forward, and the universal piece in his head glowed bright green as he read the text. "Qui ardent peris in hoc sacro loco, in vin se revixit, sed a fatum in aeternum?" Suddenly, Down Dude rushed over angrily. "What are you doing? Have you never seen a horror movie before? Never read the Latin!" But before Down Dude could run further, they began to hear noise from upstairs, as if something large was headed their way. Suddenly, Terror Tiger broke in through the ceiling, but was not as they had known him. He was now wearing a dark black cloak and carrying 2 flaming axes, as opposed to his usual one. He roared at the group and began running towards Super X, who dodged out of the way. Universal Man quickly made a force field and trapped the ravenous Terror Tiger inside of it, buying the rest of the team time to run upstairs and lock the creature inside. Down Dude turned into a Triceratops and began moving heavy furniture to cover the hole in the floor, trapping Terror Tiger in the ground. "Okay, so we need a plan," Down Dude said. "You're acting surprisingly calm, considering what just happened," Redwing said skeptically. "I'm autistic. We're great in a crisis." Universal Man groaned. "You freaked out yesterday when I put a pickle in a 2-mile radius. Yes, this is less terrifying. Either way, panicking is not going to help anyone at the moment. Now, Universal Man, since you had to go and read the Latin, do you know what it translated to?" "I mean, translation is much more complicated than that, but it was something like, 'Those who dare to die on the sacred ground will be revived to a fate eternally bound.' Great rhyming." Dandy then turned to the group. "So it appears that if anyone dies in this cabin, they'll be brought back as a weird monster thing." Universal Man began trying to make a portal outside the cabin, but found that he couldn't. He still didn't have control over his powers yet. "Great, so the plan is don't die?" Super X said, somewhat annoyed. "Basically, yes. So, let's briefly discuss the certain rules to surviving a horror movie. Rule number 1 is not applicable, seeing as Nerd Comics Inc. is a PG-13 channel. Rule number 2, never split up. It makes you easier for the killer to, well, kill. This isn't Scooby-Doo. Rule number 3, never say 'I'll be right back,' because you won't. Rule number 4, always double tap. Never assume the killer is dead, always double check. Number 5, as a friend of mine once said, never drink schnapps and never call the cops. Finally, rule number 6, you two. Dandy then looked over to Redwing and Bluewing. "Yeah, I'm not gonna lie about your chances. You have my sympathy." "Wait, is that because we're anyway? I think that's just about it." Suddenly, Terror Tiger burst through the floor and roared at the group. "Don't worry, I got this." Super X ran over to the monster and attempted to use his powers to make a copy of the monster's abilities. "Absorb!" he yelled as he touched the monster's arm. However, he didn't absorb the monster's abilities. Instead, he simply absorbed its curse. Suddenly, Super X fell to the floor, convulsing. His skin and muscles began to wither and shrink, wrapping around his skeletal frame. His eyes sunk into the back of his skull and were quickly replaced with glowing red dots. A reptilian tail burst from his lower back, as a sword made from blood formed in his hand. Super X was gone. The monster that was once Super X rushed forward with his sword and slashed through Blue Wing's chest. Blue Wing didn't have time to fire an arrow from his enchanted bow, but was able to grab a loose arrow and stab Super X straight in the neck, freezing him. He then shot a few more arrows at Terror Tiger, encasing him in a block of ice, which he was quickly melting through. Blue Wing looked down with blood spilling from his chest, and looked at his team. "I'm not gonna last much longer. I'll keep them frozen for as long as I'm able. You three need to find a way to end the curse." Red Wing stepped towards his brother. "Are you crazy? I'm not letting you die." "Yes, you are. Now go, or I swear I'll haunt your—" Before he could finish his sentence, Down Universal Man dragged Red Wing away. Dude led the group to a room in the cabin, in which he had set up a portable safe room with survival supplies, weapons, and cameras to watch the outside. It was also completely locked, and could only be opened by him or Yoshi. "Okay, now what's the plan?" Redwing asked. Universal Man then asked, "I still have a question. We know we're on the run from these monsters now, but they didn't spawn until people started dying. So who killed Terror Tiger in the first place?" Dude nodded. "Yes, I think I have a theory about that. Whoever killed Terror Tiger clearly knew about the cabin's curse, and wanted to lead us here in the first place. Therefore, I'd suspect that the person who booked this cabin is the one behind everything." "Okay, do we know who he was?" Redwing asked. "No, we don't. However, Yoshi has the files on record, doesn't he?" Universal Man asked. Dude nodded. "I suppose so, though I doubt it will be that simple. But it's worth a shot. Yoshi?" A voice suddenly rang through the air of the safe room.
Yes, Dalton?
"Yes, can you tell us who rented this cabin?"
I will look now. Let's see. Wait, what? Something hacking my systems.
"Yoshi, are you okay? Can you access the file?" Suddenly, Yoshi's voice came over the monitor again, but it was different.
"I'm sorry, Dalton."
Suddenly, the safe room doors began to open. "Yoshi, what are you doing? Close the safe room doors."
"I'm afraid I can't do that, Dalton."
Suddenly, the monsters began to rush through the room, now joined by a blue and black snake-like monster, which breathed out a thick, icy breath. Redwing readied a few flaming arrows before firing at what had once been his brother. Meanwhile, Dude transformed into a Deinonychus and began wrestling with Terror Tiger. As Universal Man began to fight off Super X, the three together were mighty. The monsters were overpowering them. Eventually, the snake creature shot an ice skull directly through Redwing's chest, instantly killing him. They then watched as Redwing transformed into a flaming centipede-like monster. Knowing they were outnumbered, Dude yelled at Universal Man, "Okay, teleport us out of here." "I'm trying, I told you, these powers aren't working." "Well, unfortunately, we're out of options. Your powers are tied to your emotions, right? What did you feel the last time you teleported?" "Fear, but being afraid isn't gonna help." Dude then ran over and stabbed Universal Man in the side. In pain, he teleported himself and Dude upstairs. "You stabbed me!" Universal Man yelled. Dude nodded. "Relax, you'll heal. I need to trigger a sudden fight or flight response to activate your teleportation. We really need to get this whole emotions thing sorted out." Suddenly, Universal Man uncharacteristically snapped. "You can't talk to me about emotion. I saw you back there. Your friends were dying all around you, and you were here all calm and cracking jokes like you didn't even care." Suddenly, Dude transformed his arm into that of a Therizinosaurus, and held a long claw to Universal Man's throat. "Let me make one thing very clear. You bottle up all the emotions because you're scared to feel them. I mask my emotions despite the fact that I feel them. I have no choice, so do not ever accuse me of not caring. Now, we need a plan. Universal Man thought for a moment. We still have that cursed book downstairs. Maybe there's some kind of counterspell. Downdude agreed to this plan, and the two quietly made their way downstairs, sneaking past their monstrous friends. Finally, they made their way downstairs. Downdude walked over and grabbed the book. Great, now is there a counterspell? There is? Great, so say it. Let's end this. However, Downdude simply stood there. Dalton, what are you doing? Suddenly, a twisted smile crossed Downdude's face. Oh, Universal Man. I'm not Downdude, or at least not yours. What are you talking about? You see, last month, your brother ended up in my dimension. I captured him, and when no one was looking, we traded places, you could say. Currently, he is locked in a cell deep within the SCP Foundation. I was simply gonna cross-dimension and killed everyone he cared about, but then I discovered that little universal piece in your head. With its power, I could easily take over the multiverse, and so I decided to hang around for a bit. Then I discovered this cabin, one thing led to another, and boom. Now, you die here, transform into a nightmare under my control, and I will have the most powerful artifact in the multiverse fighting for me. But first, how about we reunite you with the rest of your team? The evil Downdude then snapped his fingers, and the other corrupted members of the Imagination team ran into the basement. They all circled round Universal Man and converged on him all at once. However, due to his overwhelming power, he was quickly able to overcome them all. Oh, please, that was just child's play. You haven't even fought me yet, the alternate Downdude said, as he began to transform into a dinosaur that Universal Man hadn't seen before. After transforming into a strange, semi-skeletal form, the alternate Downdude took out a ray gun and shot himself in the head. He then collapsed to the ground, dead. Before his body began to morph, his skeletal face stretched, further teeth burst from his face, and a metallic arm grew from his shoulder. Downdude screeched and ran at Universal Man, tackling him to the ground. He slashed his claws, taking chunks of flesh out of his rapidly healing skin.
Look at yourself. So intent on being strong that you let your family die at my hands. A stone wall is great for defense, but doesn't do much to those outside it.
At that point, Universal Man finally broke. Tears burst from his face as a large laser shot from his forehead, eviscerating half of the other Downdude's body. Universal Man was about to fire another blast when Downdude suddenly began laughing.
Yes, it worked. Sean, you can stop attacking me. It's really me.
Universal Man looked at him confused. Dalton, how do I know it's really you? Tell me something only the real Dalton would know. Downdude thought for a minute.
You have the crippling fear of Scottish Terriers.
Universal Man then slapped Downdude in the back of the head. Okay, it's you. Now, what's going on? Downdude transformed back into a human and stood up, as did the other corrupted members of the Imagination team, who all simply stood still and robotic. Well, you know how I needed you to start expressing emotions to get your powers to work? Well, I managed to pull an elaborate prank in order to make you do so. Downdude pulled out the same laser gun that he had shot himself in the face with. See, this is a ray that can transform anyone so that they look like a spookier version of themselves, as established in the Transformer Variety episode last month. I was originally just going to use it for Halloween costumes, but then I figured this would be a better use of it. Oh, speaking of which, Downdude then turned around. Hey guys, you can come out now. Suddenly, the other members of the imagination team came downstairs. They still looked like horrific nightmares, but were acting completely normal. Did it work? Super X asked. Yes, indeed, he was crying like a little baby, Dying Dude responded. I was not. Don't lie, Yoshi recorded the whole thing. Yoshi's voice ran over the monitors.
Indeed, I have all the footage here. How's my acting?
Good, very good. The Oscar goes to you.
So is this the part where I slap you in the face, or...
Universal Man was standing still, stunned. Wait, so you were all in on this? Pretty much, yeah. So wait, when I attacked you... Oh, don't worry. Those were the Chekhov's shape-shifting robots from the beginning of the episode. Universal Man didn't know whether to feel grateful or irate. Before he could decide, though, he heard a strange sound in the air. Dynadu? What is that? Oh, didn't you realize? It's midnight on November 1st. The real monster was just released.